Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film Son of a Gun. Enjoy watching. Before watching, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'm trying to develop this channel and your support is the only thing I have. Today is 19-year-old Jesse Ryan's first day in prison. He was sentenced to 6 months, but if he's lucky, he'll be out in 3. There aren't many like him here. He's surrounded by aggressive people, but at least he was put in a cell with another guy who huddled in the corner when he saw his neighbor. Jesse keeps making eye contact with a bearded inmate, the authority figure Brandon Lynch. Jesse's cellmate was examined and dragged to a secluded place by 3 inmates. One day, Jesse passed by Brandon playing chess and decided to show off by checkmating him in 3 moves. Jesse had read about the bandit and knew his story. Then Jesse's neighbor ran by, pulling up his pants. At night, he started sharpening his toothbrush. In the cafeteria, he waits for another attack. But Jesse realizes that the guy has no chance, so he provoked a fight with him. The inmates appreciated his ingenuity. Jesse was thrown into a cell under the scorching sun. When he got out, Brandon advised him to mind his own business, hinting at the 3 who were kicking his neighbor in the yard. The next morning, Jesse was awakened by strange sounds. Blood was gushing from his neighbor's throat. He could not stand the abuse anymore. For Jesse, this is a real tragedy, because the bearded man hinted that he would be their new toy. Now it was his turn to make a shiv. Jesse, looking around, was heading to the shower. 3 bandits are chasing him, but Brandon and his gang blocked their way and ordered them to get out of here. The authority convinces the boy that a toothbrush will not help him, unlike him. But in return, Jesse will help him escape later. Brandon will sit for 20 years, and after he helps Jesse, all 25. The guy, of course, has time to think, but he really has no options. At the first opportunity, the rapist dragged Jesse into the toilet, laid him on the floor, and pulled down his pants. But Brandon and his men saved the guy again. They beat up all 3 of them and threw the leader from the 2nd floor head first, sending him to the next world. 6 months later, Jesse was released. He immediately came to the crime boss Sam, with whom Brandon played chess by correspondence. Jesse was given a suitcase and settled in a luxurious apartment on the seashore. The suitcase contained several passports for Brandon, clothes, and a gun. A girl named Tasha came to Jesse and gave him a phone and several wads of cash from Sam. Then Jesse was sent to some man who lives in a trailer. He keeps a whole arsenal in his garage. Assault rifles, a machine gun, and even an RPG. Private Wilson let Jesse shoot at the local shooting range and sold him the guns he needed. One day, the phone rang. Sam said that tomorrow he had to fly somewhere in a helicopter. Jesse paid for a sightseeing flight, and already in the sky pointed a machine gun at the pilot. He ordered the man to turn off the radio and fly to certain coordinates. At the same time, Brandon got the prepared shiv in prison and handed it to Sterlo. They took the warden hostage and forced the guards to open the door to the yard. Now the fugitives need to wait for the helicopter, and Jesse did not let them down. When the guards ran out into the yard, the guy opened fire on them and allowed Brandon to run to the helicopter. He had already started covering Sterlo and Merv. All 3 managed to escape. Jesse had previously left his recently purchased car in a vacant lot. The pilot was tied up and left near the helicopter. The radio reports that 2 bank robbers and a schoolgirl rapist have escaped from prison. Brandon and Sterla didn't know this, so the boss pulled Fatso out of the car and beat him up brutally. Now Merv is on his own. There was no need to lie. They won't do business with people like him. There were Brandon's things in the suitcase. He shaved and together they came to Sam. He wants the robber to get to work right away and steal gold bars straight from the smelter. At the party, Jesse keeps an eye on Tasha. He tries to please the girl. Then Josh, Sam's nephew, came up. They had a conflict and Josh pushed Jesse into the pool. It turned out that he couldn't swim, and Tasha had to save him. After the party, she took her new friend for a ride in her car and brought him to a restaurant. She convinces the guy that she is not sleeping with the boss. Sam found her through an ad and promised that by working for him, Tasha would get an Australian passport. But she was deceived. It's a pity she can't run away. The previous girlfriend was burned after such an attempt. In the morning, Jesse had a serious conversation. If he and the girl had something going on, they would have already been fed to the sharks. If Jesse continues to think with his dick, he will be kicked off the team. Brandon demanded that they find new housing, from which it will be easier to escape if the cops arrive. Together with Jesse, they arrived at the quarry, where the robbery will take place. The guy will need to crawl into a certain room through the ventilation. Take aim at the workers and open the main entrance for the rest. It is important that no one presses the panic button. Now they need to find the driver. The bandits arrived at the racetrack, where Brandon met with an old friend, Chris. The whole team is assembled. Brandon developed a plan and distributed roles. Jesse and Josh flared up again. They had to be separated. At the club where Tasha works, visitors began to harass her. Jesse stood up for the girl. Despite the danger, they agreed to meet after work on the beach. Tasha entered the water, luring her young friend into the sea as well. So the girl decided to teach him to swim. Jesse told how his alcoholic father pushed him off a boat as a child, and he almost died. After such a sad story, Tasha could only give herself to the guy right in the water. In the morning, the girl gave Jesse an amulet for good luck. The guy plans that after the robbery, he will get his share and they will run away with Tasha. Jesse was almost late. Sterl admits that she trusts Brandon unconditionally. He is a cool specialist, and he also brings good luck, because he saved him from 3 life sentences. The robbers disguised themselves as workers. Having shown papers and passes, they entered the quarry territory. Now everything is in Jesse's hands. While he is crawling through the ventilation, Brandon disabled the surveillance camera. Jesse stopped and removed the grate over the room where the gold is smelted. Now they have to wait for the workday. Sam foresaw that the new guy would offer Tashi to run away with him. She lies to the boss that she didn't sleep with the kid because it's too dangerous. Morning came. Brandon instructs the team to shoot the workers in the legs if they start acting up. The robbers broke into the CCTV point and knocked out the guard. Brandon took all the discs with recordings and took guns out of the bag. Now it's Jesse's turn. He pulled a monkey mask over his head and jumped down. The guy scared the workers and made them open the door. The robbers went inside and forced several workers to start smelting gold. Josh was supposed to be near the furnace, but he was left to watch the hostages. The idiot got nervous and shot one man in the leg. Brandon broke his nose with the butt of his rifle and applied a tourniquet to the wounded man. The police arrived. All the bars were put in the bag. The robbers surrounded themselves with a crowd of workers and went out into the street. Brandon opened fire on the police cars. Chris burst in at speed, and the bandits got into the car. Brandon continued shooting as he drove away. The cops opened fire too. They managed to wound Sterlo in the stomach. The robbers were chased. Brandon shot at the cop cars until he ran out of bullets. Sterlo was bleeding and crying. He asked to give his share to his wife. The bandit died in Jesse's arms. Chris pulled a trick, got rid of the tail, and the bandits were able to hide in a safe place. They arrived at the meeting place with Sam. Josh immediately complained about Brandon, although it was his actions that led to the problems. Sam took the bars to cut them into pieces. In the evening, he will give the robber his share. Brandon doused the car with gasoline and set it on fire along with his friend Sterlo. The car flew off a cliff and fell into a pond. As agreed, Tasha packed her things. But instead of Jesse, Sam's man came to her. He saw the suitcase, took off the belt, and hit Tasha in the face with it. She tried to run away, but the man started throwing her all over the apartment. He started to strangle the girl with a wire, but got hit on the head with an iron. There was no way back, and Tasha ran away. She sent a text message and warned the robbers that Sam had set them up and that they needed to run. And so it was. The house was surrounded by special forces. Brandon had a stash of cash in the cemetery. He was going to get his share by force. Tasha walked around the city until nightfall until she received a text message from Jesse. He bought a train ticket for her. That's where they met. The 3 arrived in Melbourne. There, Sam was going to exchange gold for money. They found and paid a man who knew where the exchange would take place. The national channel showed photos of Brandon and Jesse as the main suspects in the recent robbery. A repeat offender threw a package at Tasha and ordered her to send it to Jana Sterl. She refused, and Brandon hit her in the face. Jesse attacked him, but the bandit easily overpowered the kid. Tasha left. Jesse wanted to run after her, but Brandon did not let him. Tasha bought food and went back to the apartment. The killer hired by Sam went after her. She heard Brandon persuading Jesse to give her some money and let her go. The girl ran away again. This time, Jesse caught up with her, and the hired killer took advantage of the moment and easily entered the apartment. Tasha does not believe that the robber will give Jesse the money. For him, he is a convenient guy at his side, on whom he will then dump everything. Jesse simply saw in him the father he so lacked. The cunning Brandon, meanwhile, told the killer Wayne about the gold, and offered to get much more than he would be paid for his murder. After thinking for a while, Jesse decided to go back to Brandon. He pointed a gun at him and then gave the gun to his young friend. They arrived at the place where the gold would be exchanged for money. Sam entrusted this task to his nephew. Suddenly, Wayne showed up in his car and crashed into the bandits' cars at speed. They decided that it was a setup and shot each other. Josh was pulled out of the car and sat on a chair. He did not admit where the gold was hidden, so Brandon picked up a hammer. However, Wayne wanted to put Josh in the refrigerator, so they did. Josh still did not give up. But the gun to his head still convinced him to tell where the suitcases with gold were hidden. Now they need to get out of the country, but first they need to finish one thing. Brandon came to Sam and shot him. The robbers stopped at a motel and hid the suitcases under the bed. Jesse asked the concierge to pass a letter to another room. Together with Brandon, they went to buy a yacht from a local man to sail away from Australia. Brandon demands that the kid be in his sight at all times, even when he takes a shower. He didn't even sleep a wink that night. At dawn, they loaded the groceries onto the yacht. When Jesse came out on deck, he saw Brandon pointing a gun at him again. He offers the kid to agree to half of the ingot. That is 1/12 of their loot. But Jesse says that Brandon no longer has any gold. And indeed, he found some iron in the suitcase. The phone rang. Tasha spoke to him on the other end. In the letter, Jesse left her the key to the room. The girl had been following them all the time and had settled into the same motel. She snuck into the room and took the ingots. And if Brandon wants half, he will leave Jesse alive and do as they say. But the bandit pounced on Jesse and threw him into the water. He forgot that the guy can't swim and saved him without thinking. Jesse said he would call and tell Brandon where he could find his half of the money. Tom had no choice but to let the guy go. Tasha was waiting for him on the shore. Brandon went into a local laundromat and waited for his clothes to be washed. Then he noticed that it had become too quiet. A woman at the entrance recognized Brandon and called the police. He went outside with his hands up. SWAT surrounded him from all sides and laid him face down on the asphalt. Jesse hid Brandon's share in a secret grave that only the two of them knew about, and sent his accomplice a letter with instructions, although it is unlikely that Brandon will ever be able to use his millions.